Let me tell you a secret. Being a digital nomad in Europe doesn't have to be crazy expensive. I've researched extensively about living and working from different European cities over the past year, and I'm going to break down the 7 best spots for digital nomads in Europe in 2025. I'll be telling you all about real costs, internet speeds, and where to actually live. These cities are places where you can get work done and have an amazing life without destroying your bank account. Here was my criteria for picking a city. First, reliable internet. It's kind of essential for digital nomads. Second was reasonable living costs, so you can save some money while living the dream. I also checked out the co-working scenes, local communities, and how easy it is to travel on weekends. Let's get into it. First up is Lisbon in Portugal, and for good reason, it always shows up on every digital nomad list. But you're here for the real scoop, not just the Instagram version. You can get a decent 1-bedroom apartment in cool areas of the city for around €1,000. For co-working spaces, if you want to have a membership, you should budget around €150 monthly for a good spot. Food is pretty reasonable, only about €400 monthly if you mix cooking and eating out. Next up, the internet is actually fantastic. Speeds of around 500 megabytes per second in most areas, and even the cafe Wi-Fi is solid. Just make sure to use a VPN to keep your data secure from an attack. Speaking of cafes, the Copenhagen Coffee Lab has become like a second office for what feels like half the digital nomads in the city. The best part of Lisbon, in my opinion, is that the community here is huge. Join the Digital Nomads Lisbon Facebook group on day 1, and you'll probably have dinner plans by day 2. For weekend trips, just jump on a train to Porto for €30 or grab a cheap flight to the Algarve. Next up on our list is Zagreb in Croatia. And before you say, but what about Split or Dubrovnik? Trust me on this one. Zagreb is like that cool friend who doesn't need to show off. First, the costs. A nice apartment in the Upper Town or British Square area will cost you between €600 and €800, literally half what you pay on the coast. Your money goes way further here, too. A coffee at a nice cafe is about €2. Dinner out costs you maybe €15, and monthly groceries you should budget around €300. For workspaces, you've got some amazing options. Hub 385 costs you around €130 monthly, and you've got spots like Impact Hub too. These aren't just desks, but they're like entire tech communities with events happening every week. Croatia's digital nomad visa is actually one of the easiest to get in Europe. Just prove you make over €2,300 monthly, and you're pretty much set. But what makes Zagreb special is that it's a real city, not just a tourist stop. The tech scene is growing like crazy. You'll find yourself having coffee next to local developers and startup founders, and everyone speaks amazing English. The location is also perfect for weekend adventures. You're 2 hours from the Croatian coast, 2 hours from hiking, and 3 hours from skiing in Slovenia. Plus, cheap flights to everywhere in Europe take off from Zagreb Airport. Summer here is all about cafe culture, but winter and the Christmas market was literally voted the best in Europe for 3 years running. Not bad for your office view. The internet speeds here are on average around 100 megabytes per second in most apartments, with fiber options up to 500 megabytes per second if you need it. Moving on to Valencia, Spain. This city is where you go when you want beach life but also need to get work done. Let's break it down. Between €700 and €900 gets you a nice apartment in an area of the city that has a lot of quiet streets and cool cafes. The cafe working culture here is incredible, with several popular co-working spots that have amazing Wi-Fi. What makes Valencia special is that you get all the Spanish lifestyle benefits, amazing food, beach, perfect weather, but at about 30% less cost than Barcelona. A monthly transport pass is €35, but honestly, get a bike here if you're spending more than a month. The city's old riverbed has been turned into this massive park that cuts through the whole city, and it's like a green highway for cyclists. Budget about €400 monthly for food. Include trying all the local spots. The Mercado Central isn't just for tourists. Locals actually shop here, and you can get amazing fresh produce for way less than supermarket prices. If you want to switch up your work spot, take your laptop to Las Arenas Beach in the morning. There are plenty of cafes with Wi-Fi right on the beach. The connection is solid, and your morning Zoom calls get way better with an ocean view. For actual co-working spaces, you have options. Most are around €130 a month. Location-wise, you're set. Madrid is 2.5 hours away on a high-speed train, Barcelona's 4 hours, and you've got amazing beach towns nearby as well. Alicante's actually only 90 minutes by train if you want a different beach vibe for the weekend. The internet situation in Valencia is great. Most apartments have fiber optic now, which is around 300 megabytes per second standard and up to 1 gigabyte per second if you need it. Perfect for uploading those beach sunset Instagram stories that'll make your friends back home jealous. Next up is Prague, a city that perfectly balances its stunning history with a seriously impressive tech scene. This place has become one of Europe's fastest-growing digital nomad hubs, and for good reason. You can score a nice apartment for between 800 and €1,000. And these apartments are like remote work heaven. You have specialty coffee shops on basically every corner, fast internet everywhere, and tons of other digital nomads. Most cafes here have gigabyte Wi-Fi, plenty of power outlets, and they're totally cool with you camping out all day as long as you buy coffee every few hours. The location of Prague is where it sets itself apart. You're basically in the center of Europe. Berlin and Vienna are both 4-hour train rides away. Hop on a cheap flight and you can be anywhere in Europe in under 2 hours. The public transport here is so good you'll never need a car. €20 gets you a monthly pass for all metros, trams, and buses. The metro runs till midnight, trams run 24/7, and you can get anywhere in the city in under 30 minutes. Next, let's talk daily costs, because this is where Prague gets even better. A nice dinner out is around €15. Monthly groceries you can budget around €250. And even with eating out a few times a week, you can easily keep your food budget under €500. Internet in apartments is seriously fast in Prague, and most contracts are month to month, perfect for a digital nomad like you. And the cost is around €25 monthly. The after-work scene is pretty great too. And yes, the rumors about Czech beer being cheaper than water are totally true. About €2 for a perfect pour. Now, for Berlin. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Isn't it expensive? Well, not if you know where to look. Here's the deal with Berlin. Skip the tourist areas and head to lesser-known neighborhoods where you can find apartments for between €900 and €1,100, which is way less than other major tech hubs. The startup scene here is absolutely booming, which means tons of networking opportunities and events where you can actually meet people. The co-working culture here is also next level. Places like Factory Berlin aren't just offices, they're like entire ecosystems. But the fact is that most people here just work from cafes, and nobody will judge you for camping out with your laptop all day. Next up is Budapest, and I know it might not be the first city you think of for remote work, but trust me, this place is a hidden gem for digital nomads. Let's start with the costs, because they're kind of mind-blowing. You can get a beautiful apartment in District 7 or 5 for between €500 and €700. The cafe culture here is also great, with perfect Wi-Fi and baristas who won't give you the eagle eye for standing all day. Here's something cool about Budapest. After work, you can hit up one of the thermal baths. Imagine wrapping up your workday with a soak in a 100-year-old spa. That's just normal life here. Last but definitely not least, Porto. Think of it as Lisbon's more laid-back sibling, with all the perks but fewer tourists and lower prices. You can find apartments in cool areas of the city for between €700 and €900 on average. The co-working scene is smaller than Lisbon's, but actually more tight-knit. There are spaces that have these amazing views over the river, which is great for those boring Zoom calls. What makes Porto special is that it's big enough to have everything you need, but small enough to make it feel like home pretty quickly. Food costs here are similar to Lisbon, maybe even a bit cheaper. And for weekend trips, you're close to some of Portugal's best beaches, and you can even pop up to Spain for the weekend if you want. Being a digital nomad in Europe is the dream for many people. This guide shows you how to do it while saving money in the process. We've got more guides on the way, so make sure to subscribe and hit the like button for more. Drop a comment below if you've worked from any of these cities, especially if you've found some hidden gems that I didn't mention.